Hi, I'm Mark Stephenson. I'm the Director of Dairy Policy Analysis at the University of Wisconsin. Next Monday, on January the 11th, I'm going to be giving an Outlook presentation at the Hoard's webinar. I wanted to just share with you a couple of the things that I'm thinking about. Is 2020 really in the rearview mirror? Of course, the calendar date is, but what about 2021? What's it going to offer? One thing I think we have to acknowledge is that actually COVID's not quite over. We're hopeful now. We've got some signs that lead us to believe that we're going to get there, but we still have impacts of this pandemic on dairy markets and indeed most all supply chains. Look at what's happened in the year past. This is milk production, on average milk production per day over the last 4 years. And you'll see in the red line where we had a big decline in May relative to what we normally would have expected would have been an increase in milk production. That, of course, was base excess plans. We had milk dumping happening at the end of April, and the markets did tighten up, and we got a price response from that and other things like food box purchases of dairy products. But we now see that we've got pretty big milk production. In fact, more than 3% increase out here in November compared to the same month last year. We're officially back at big milk production increases, and it makes us wonder a little bit about what our price implications are going to be. Now, over the year, we had some buildup of stocks, certainly cheese, but butter stocks are the one that I want to focus on here. They've been bigger, as you can see in this red line, over the course of the year. And while we're pulling them down, having some decline during a normal seasonal drawdown of stocks for us, those stocks are still high relative to what they would have been. That's put pressure on butter prices. This graphic is showing you butter prices in the red line for the US. Our prices now are under those other competitors for world markets. And I expect that we are going to sell some butter, but we certainly weren't at the beginning of 2019, and through much of 2020, we were not exporting butter. The increase in milk production that we're seeing now in this last quarter of 2020 has come from a couple of different things. One of them is capacity, dairy cow increases. It's been pretty substantial since June. Part of the way that farmers met that base excess time period was by culling dairy cows, and we had a decline from March through June. But since that time period, we're adding our capacity to produce milk in cow numbers. Also, milk per cow. Dairy farmers reduced milk production per cow in May during that base excess time period. A couple different ways to do it. One of them is to reduce the ration intensity, and that has been in the rearview mirror as well. We're now producing big gains in milk production per cow. Put those two together, big gains in milk production. So when I'm thinking about a forecast, I have to think about the optimism that we have from things like the food box program. Grocery store sales and return to home cooking has been a real thing. Restaurant and school reopenings, we're struggling with those. We've tried it. We've had to back off in some regions. Back to work and some new version of normal is certainly going to be a positive for dairy, and export opportunities. We now have prices aligned pretty well with most dairy products. But the real thing I think we have to watch for is the effective implementation of a COVID vaccine, better testing and better contact tracing. The concerns we have about the next year's prices are about US and worldwide recession. We're technically in recession now, and I think that the amount of money that's been spent as we're trying to climb out of the post-COVID unemployment numbers is going to keep us in recession for a period of time. And then the real question is round 3 of COVID, and when will we have an effective vaccine that's widely administered? These are things that I'm looking at, and we are waiting with bated breath to see what happens on January 20th. Does the change of administration mean that we get on top of some of these things, and what will happen for our milk prices? So I'm looking forward to exploring these and many other things on Monday. Look forward to seeing you then.